Right. Excellent. So thanks for joining us today, everyone. If you want, as we go through, go ahead and put your phones on mute, and then I'll stop frequently and ask if there's any questions, and then you can jump in and come off of mute. You can also type questions in chat if you want to as well, and I'll review those. But we got a small enough group where we can handle the mute on, mute off pretty easily. So. As Nate mentioned, our focus is Sage CRM. We have about 80 customers now that we support, all of which have their Sage CRM systems integrated with Sage 100. That's probably the biggest benefit of the Sage CRM package. So I'll be going through that, the Sage CRM package itself and the integration and how that works with you, so you're familiar with the whole package plus some additional functionality that is typically implemented by our customers. And we've been doing the Sage CRM implementation since it came out around 2009, I want to say. So 10 plus years of implementing CRM integrated with Sage 100. So let's get into that. Sage CRM itself runs through a browser, so it's web-based. As you see when we do the demos of the system, I'll actually pull it up in Chrome. That's typically the common solution that most of our customers use. But it does get installed in your environment. So that means if wherever your Sage 100 server is installed, Sage CRM will either get installed on that server or on a server right next to it in your environment. They need to see each other. The systems need to see each other in order to synchronize information. And as I mentioned, it runs from a browser, so there's no software that needs to be installed other than, we'll talk about an Outlook plugin to file emails. But other than that, everything just gets installed on the server and people connect through a browser. I like to talk about core CRM functionality. So for people that may not be familiar with what a CRM package does for a company, these are kind of the core expectations. All of the CRM packages out there, Salesforce, Microsoft CRM, there's probably hundreds of CRM packages out there that are available. They all do this core set of functionality. They all let you have a database to manage your customers and prospects. You can manage your sales activities, so create a task list and set reminders and attach emails so that you have kind of an audit trail of the important communications. You can pull up company records in CRM, and kind of the core piece there is be able to pull up a company and see everything that's happened across the company. So who talked to them last and what was said. And as I mentioned, manage those follow-ups. So for example, if I just pull up a company in CRM to show you that core functionality, here's Maverick Papers. It's a company in CRM. If I go to the People tab, I have all the contacts or person records associated with that company. And then the Communications tab is where I would go to see, all right, what did we do with them last? Emails are attached. Perhaps there's phone call notes in there, and they're all date time stamped with the person that made the entry as well. So that's your kind of your 360-degree sharing of information. That obviously you can't do with Outlook, because everybody who has their own Outlook just has their own information. They're not sharing the company's information. So that's an example of that core functionality. In addition to that, integration with Outlook and Exchange. So filing emails from Outlook to CRM, I have a slide on that coming up next. And then an Exchange integration. Some of our customers want their calendars, their contacts, their task lists to sync between CRM and their Exchange mailboxes. There's a component within Sage CRM that lets you turn that on and configure that. And then another core feature is email templates. So you have, or you may have, communications that you are doing repetitively. Maybe you're sending out a credit app, or you're following up on open quotes. Those are all emails that you send out over and over again. You can build those into the system as an email template, and I'll show you that shortly here as well. So the Outlook integration, this is the one piece that I talked about that requires an install on the workstation. So for someone that is going to attach emails from Outlook to CRM, there's a little plugin that gets installed. You see this little button here, this file email button will appear within your Outlook. And you do need to be, I think nowadays it's you either be on Outlook 2013 or higher, or depending on the Sage CRM version, 2016 or higher. So take that into account. You need to be on a newer version of Outlook to make that happen. But the concept is you pick the email in Outlook and click the button, and it would ask you, it would look up, try to find that person by the email address in CRM, and then let you attach it. And the nice part is it creates a copy of that email in CRM for everyone to see, and then you can actually delete it from Outlook. And as I mentioned, you can synchronize, you can turn on the synchronization to sync calendar, contact, and task list. And then we do have some what we call power users who would benefit from situations like, I want to be able to create a company or a person from an email. So they get lead emails and they want to create a company or person from that email, or they may want to create an opportunity from the email or a case from the email. There's a third-party tool called Accelerator that we would typically implement, and that lets you create those records in CRM from an email and also tag them so that they're related to a case or an opportunity, for example, as you move through. So that's something that we have a separate webinar in that, but I like to mention that at least when we're going through the integration, there is an option beyond the out-of-the-box Outlook plugin that lets you do some additional functionality as well. Email and letter templates, these can be a huge time saver. So for example, if I pull up my demo system here again, and if I wanted to send a person, let me pull up the purchasing manager here, Sally Reed. I wanted to send her a credit app. I could click on the email address in CRM. You see this drop down list here. All of my email templates will appear here. And then I can just click on the email credit app, and here you see it's pre-formatted. It has my signature. I'm logged in as a system admin. And in this case, it even has an attachment with the credit app pre-built, so I can just go ahead and send it from CRM. And there's a pop-up email window that comes up there. So that's one example. If I were to pull up an opportunity or a quote here, and I wanted to follow up on that, I could click on the email address at that level, and I can choose my quote follow-up template, and that's pre-formatted as well. So you can build those in, and typically it's a marketing person that's creating that list of templates to make them available for sales users, and they can utilize those to make life easier. Okay, any questions on that core functionality that I went through? Okay, very good. So let's get into the integration piece. And this is really, let me minimize this. This is the main reason why people go with Sage CRM over other CRM packages, is the tight integration and the capabilities we can utilize with the integration with Sage 100. So some of the core out-of-the-box functionality when you integrate Sage CRM with Sage 100. Number one, there's a utility. We can pull in all of your Sage 100 customers into CRM. So after we install the Sage CRM product, we just run this wizard and pull in all of your customers into CRM. You have the ability then also to, if you have a prospect in CRM, you can convert that prospect to Sage 100. I'll show you how that works. Information will update. So for example, if you change the billing address on a customer in Sage 100, that will sync down, that update will sync down automatically to Sage CRM. That's typically the way we set it up one way. Key and most often the biggest return on investment is the integrated quoting and order processing piece within CRM. So you can actually initiate a quote from within CRM within an opportunity, or it can create the opportunity for you, and now you have a follow-up. So we'll talk about this again later, but a lot of times companies that are doing quotes do not have any type of standard follow-up system in their processes. So you do the quote and you just wait for the customer to call back. There's no system for follow-up. So let's talk about that core base integration real quick. Let me show you a demo. So when I pull up Maverick Papers here, here's an example of a customer that is linked to Sage 100. Here's a Sage 100 customer number here. If I look at my company list here, I have 210 companies in CRM, and you'll see several of them. Let's see what, I'm just looking at prospects. Hang on a second. Several of those records have customer numbers. You see those all came over from Sage 100. The ones that don't have customer numbers, those are tagged as prospects. If I pull up a customer, I have the ability to, if I have privileges in Sage 100 to access customer maintenance, I can click on customer maintenance and call that customer maintenance window right from CRM. The only caveat there is I need to be on a machine that has the Sage 100 workstation software on it, but notice I can pull up that customer maintenance window here. If I have the ability to edit a record in customer maintenance, I could change, for example, their suite number to 1000. And as soon as I hit accept, within a couple seconds, that should sync down to CRM. And there you see their bill to address change there. So that's part of that synchronization and keeping the data in line. If I pull up a prospect, I have the ability to click on this maintain relationship button. So when that prospect purchases for the first time, I can actually make them a customer. So you see this promote company to customer. From CRM, I could take this prospect, click on the pound symbol to give them the next customer number, and hit accept. And now Allstate Construction has been added as a customer to Sage 100. Notice the type is updated to customer after I refreshed. They have a customer number, and I can click on customer maintenance and see that they're actually a customer in Sage 100. And at this point, I can update their tax schedule and credit terms and credit limit and all that good stuff from here. Any questions on that base integration there? Okay.
Does that work the other way too? Like if you update something in Sage 100, will it update automatically on CRM?
Yes. If you enter in, for example, a new customer in Sage 100, it can be set up so that it automatically adds the record to CRM. That was your question, right?
Yep.
Yeah, great question. Absolutely. And that's typically the way we configure it out of the box. All right, any other questions on the base integration? Okay, good. So let's talk about some advanced integration. So I mentioned we've been doing this since 2009. We've got about 80 customers now running Sage CRM. Early on, our customers identified that some of the information in CRM was, or they wanted more information in CRM. So we've written scripts to bring over additional information. So that's part of what we call our advanced customization package. So let's look at that. So you see here, out of the box, you get the top two lines, right? The line with the Sage 100 division number and the terms code description. Those top two rows are what you get in the base integration. But our customers quickly came back to us and said, you know, that's okay, but I really want to know when I pull up a customer, when was their last invoice date, and what are their sales this year compared to last year, and are they better or worse? What are their sales last year in total? What are their sales 2 years ago in total? And do they owe us any money? Right, so that's one component of our advanced customization package, is bringing over this additional information. It's typically updated each night. And then if we drill down, we also bring over quotes, open orders, and invoices. Those transactions are available within CRM. So this is a Nice feature for if you have a sales team that you want to give information that's in Sage 100, but you don't necessarily want them logging into Sage 100, or maybe you're kicking out reports to them that get outdated pretty quickly. This concept is you can pull up any customer in CRM and see, do they have an open order? What was on their last invoice? Are there any quotes out there? So the transaction piece, and I'm going to show you this live in a second. The transaction tabs are there, and then we also display item level information. So when you look at a customer, what the item summary tab will show you what they've been buying. So it's grouped by item with sales and counts for this year compared to last year. By product line, that's the PL summary, that's this middle image, and then the items purchased, which is the most popular, and that's all the line items from all the invoices, so that you can do searching. So let's take a look at that real quick. If I use Maverick Papers as my example again, imagine that I'm a salesperson. I have all the key sales information down here. In addition to that, my marketing team could even use last invoice date to say, let's look up all the customers that haven't purchased in 6 months and let's send them a promotion. You can use those fields for target marketing as well. And then we have the transaction tab. So here you have quotes, open orders, and I also want to point out you can drill down on any of these. So I can drill down by clicking on the sales order to see the line items. So what's on that sales order or that open order, and invoices as well. So here's all their invoices, and once again I can drill down on an invoice to see the line items, and that's all through the browser. And then I have the item level information. So what have they been buying this year compared to last year by product line, and then the items purchased. And this one, probably most popular, customer calls in and says, I bought a lamp last year. I don't remember which one I bought, and I don't remember how much it cost, but I need another one. You can search the item description, in this case for lamp, and it'll show you when they bought it, what invoice it was on, how many they bought, what the price was at that time. So once again, this is all the line items from all the invoices. Any questions on that advanced integration, the advanced customization piece?
Are you also able to drill down into the description if there's like multiple lines of description for each product?
Yeah, like if you've got that extended description in there. So this is the item. The item in Sage 100 has a 30-character base description, and there's an extended description. We could bring over the extended description if you wanted us to, yes. Any other questions? Okay, so let's move on. This, as I mentioned earlier, if your company does quoting, and even more importantly, if you're able to do quoting from Sage 100, right? If you're able to pull up a Sage 100 sales order window and create a quote, this is normally the biggest return on investment for a company, because you can standardize your quoting process now. And when the customer decides to move forward, you just convert that quote to an order. So it's the best fit when you're using the Sage 100 quotes, and the longer it takes for you to close a deal, or the bigger the deal is, the more it makes sense to use the opportunity piece within CRM. It gives you the ability to quickly look at all the open quotes, which corresponds to an opportunity. And we'll see there's a forecast close date that you can utilize to say what deals are going to close this month or this quarter. And then you can obviously track how many deals did we win, how many deals did we lose, and the ones that are lost, you can enter in a reason why. So you have some post-mortem type of reporting that you can do. The key component of a sales opportunity, and this is what you don't get necessarily with just doing a quote in Sage 100, is you have the close by date, and then it's assigned to a salesperson. So typically the way it works is there's a stage, where am I at in the sales process? Those can be customized. Is it in progress, won or lost? What's the dollar estimate? What percentage chance do I think it's going to happen? Who's the salesperson responsible for following up on this quote? And when did the customer think they were going to decide by? Okay, those are the core components of an opportunity in any CRM system. And then one of the nice features is when you are ready to quote, you actually initiate the quote from CRM, but it pulls up the sales order window in Sage 100. So it's actually, and I'll demo this, it's actually creating the quote in the Sage 100 system and then pulling the information back into CRM so that you can email the quote. Okay, so once that quote is created, and we'll do this together, then you can use this send quote button to email the quote. And here's an example of what the quote template can look like. This can be customized to have obviously your company's look and feel. And then you can just email it out of the system. When you click on the send quote button, it generates an email, automatically saves the quote as a PDF, and it's ready for you to go. So let's see how that works.
Can you open up that quote again? I just had to walk away from my desk. I don't know if you had it open or not.
Yeah, I'll show you. I'm going to go through it right now. So let's go to Maverick. We can use actually ABC dealers. And I can either create an opportunity. If I'm in a situation where I want to identify a project and have a placeholder in CRM before I quote, if you have big projects and you want to put it in there saying it's coming down the pipe, but I'm not ready to quote it yet, you can actually create an opportunity first. And then when you're ready to quote, you can go to the quotes tab of the opportunity and click on this new quote button, and it will actually pop up the Sage 100 window. Or if you're in a different situation, maybe you're just doing quick quotes, you're working off a price list and the customer just wants a quote for 10 of these and you just need to go through that formal quoting process before they buy, then you can actually pull up the person. Let me pull up somebody else that has my email address here. There you go, Bill Smith. So Bill Smith calls in, he just wants a quote for 10 of a certain part. I can pull up the person's record and I can do what's called an on-the-fly quote. This is this new quote button. So instead of creating the opportunity first, I can create the new quote and it will pop up an intermediate window. This is the on-the-fly window. So what it's going to do when I hit this pound symbol button, it's automatically going to create the opportunity for me. And I'll hit proceed. And now I'm on the sales order window. For those of you that do quotes in Sage 100, this should be really familiar to you. I can come over here and enter in some line items. So let's say I wanted 10 of those. And let's do 3 of those. And I hit accept a couple times. And it creates the sales order in Sage 100. And then because I did an on-the-fly quote, it will create an OTF opportunity. You see this one down at the bottom? OTF quote number. And that is the corresponding opportunity in CRM for that quote I just created. So I can pull it up. And now if I want to email it to the customer, I just drill down to the quotes tab and you'll see I have a copy of that quote in CRM here. And remember, I talked about that send quote button. I'm just going to click on send quote. It'll save the quote as a PDF and automatically attach it to an email. So this email is a template. You predefine what you want that to say. So once again, we're standardizing the quoting process. Every quote should look the same. And then here's the template. And once again, this can be formatted. It's a Word document, so we can format the template with merge fields any way we need to.
Quick question here. Can you also have this in Excel?
No, only Word. Good question.
And you said that, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You said that it automatically saves the quote as a PDF, and I assume it saves it in Sage under the customer's account number.
Mm-hmm.
And wondering, could you also have it save it in another folder, like if you had a folder that you labeled quotes? Did it save
So
in more than one place?
with CRM, why would you need it saved somewhere else?
Well, maybe I wouldn't. That's just
Yeah, that's
what
a
I've been doing.
common question. But watch, let's take it the next step, and I'll show you where you'll have a record of it. So the next step would be to email this to the customer, and I can put a note in here. You know, I'm from Wisconsin, so we can say Go Packers, right? And then I hit send email, and it will send the email to the customer, and it will make a copy of that email or save a copy of that email underneath the opportunity here. Right, so I have a record that went out. Here's the email. Here's the quote attached to it. So I can always pull it up from that opportunity. And now I have that opportunity in CRM as my follow-up, right? I've got within my CRM opportunities, I have all of my open quotes or opportunities to follow up on. On my dashboard, when I come in the morning, I have, if I go to my sales dashboard, I have my open opportunities, you know, either in a chart or in a list here that I can access. And then before each sales meeting, I would typically update my list, and the sales manager then has, if they go to Team CRM opportunities, they have all the open opportunities across all the salespeople. And now this is part of your sales meeting culture now is everybody updates their opportunities before they go to the sales meeting. And then you can take a look and see, you know, how many deals are coming in this month. You can have a conversation. If you need to give production a heads up, you know, oh boy, we're going to get all these, it looks like all these deals are going to hit in November. We better make sure we can handle all those orders if they come in. So the forecasting component is part of that opportunity. And then to your question, next is that sales quote can then be converted to an order. So you see if I pull that opportunity up, customer calls back in, Bill Smith calls back in and says, got approval, let's go ahead and place that order. You can pull up that opportunity, drill down to the quote, and if they don't need to change anything, you can just promote it to an order. Or if you want to review it first, you can hit View Edit and open up that sales order from Sage 100, and you just convert it to an order. That makes sense? Okay. Silence usually means yes, so that is good. Now, the other part that's pretty cool is you can actually create a quote against a prospect too. Some of you, without a CRM system, you have to enter in prospects into Sage 100 in order to do a quote, and then you're garbaging up your Sage 100 system with companies that maybe never bought from you. I can actually, you know, if I pull up a prospect, they're a customer, let me look up a prospect. It will actually, if I drill down on a person, let's say I do a quick quote again. The integration has this feature called prospect quote, and it basically creates a dummy customer record. See that prospect quote? It creates a dummy prospect record that stores those prospect quotes in the system. It'll still exist in Sage 100, and then when that prospect purchases for the first time, you just convert that prospect to a customer, and it'll pull that quote underneath that new customer record and let you convert it to an order. So you can use the same methodology to quote to prospects using the integration. Any other questions on that quoting piece? Okay. Let's go forward. So I talked about managing those opportunities. Once again, without CRM, you're just kicking out quotes and you're waiting for the customer or prospect to call back. Now you have an opportunity that represents that open quote that you eventually mark won or lost. And this my customers that have the best success with CRM, they're the ones that also use opportunities, and they've adapted it into their regular sales meetings. The expectation for the sales users are you're going to review your opportunity. Number one, you're going to create an opportunity for every quote. So it's going to force you to make sure that the company and the person is in CRM in order for you to do the quote. So you're building your database. And then we're going to review that information in each sales meeting, and you're going to keep that up to date. And then we can run reports or dashboards to see what opportunities are closing this month or this quarter, and forecast and also give production a heads up. Okay, so that's my bit on the quoting and the sales opportunities piece. Before I move on, any other questions about quoting and opportunities? Okay. Let's switch gears, go into marketing. So if you, the part of what a CRM database does for you is it gives you the opportunity to, if you're coming out with a new product and you want to let either existing customers or prospects know about it through an email blast, you need to have that list ready to go. And you saw how I can come into CRM and I can do a search, for example, on companies. Here I just did prospects, but if I wanted to look at everybody who had an invoice date in the current year, everybody who bought from us this year, I can pull up a list. So I have these fields available to you, and you can use those strategically, especially with the integration. You have another level. You can dovetail sales data into your target marketing. So that means you can quickly perform those lookups to segment and do target marketing. And then there's a MailChimp tool within CRM that lets you create a dynamic group. You can build a list, whether it's customers who purchased from you in the current year or whatever segment you want to go after. You can build lists and export those directly to MailChimp. And then when you send out your email blasts, it will synchronize some of this information back to CRM. So here's an example of a campaign that was sent out using MailChimp through CRM. And then when you pull up a person, you can actually go to the marketing tab of the person and you can see what email blast did we send to that person? Did they open it? Did they click on a link? And so on. So we have that MailChimp integration available to us. The other piece that's a component that you may or may not use, I have maybe 30 to 40% of my customers that use case management. If your company needs to track issues, if you have a situation where a customer calls in and you got a service department or you want to track an issue and you're not able to solve the issue on the phone, but you may need to assign that issue to somebody else, a case is a perfect component for that. You can create a case in CRM. You can manage all the open cases. You can look for, are we always having problems with this particular product or piece of equipment? So you look for trends, and you can also create a knowledge base on those cases as well, because you can look up by case description or by case issue. So I'll give you a quick look at the cases here. When I pull up, if I go to Team CRM, for example, I can look at cases, and here are all the open cases in the system. And then I can drill down and show you what a case looks like. So they're having an issue with these office chair controls. This obviously can be customized to fit your specific tracking needs, but it's tied to the company and the person. It has its own communications tab, so you can file emails to the case. You can store pictures with the case if you want to. The customer sends in a picture of the broken component or something like that. That can all be stored in there. And then ultimately you can mark that case closed and have a history of it. So when I look at Maverick Papers, I want to see how many times they called in with issues. I can go to the cases tab underneath that company, and I can see all of their cases. Each company has an opportunities tab too. I didn't mention that earlier, but you could see all their open quotes too. So any questions on cases and issue tracking? All right. So we talked about the key components of a case and managing those open cases. Now within the opportunity and the cases, there's a workflow component that can build in a sequential process to guide your CRM users through either the sales process or the case issue process. And what we can do is we can build this workflow. And when you click on each, down in the lower right, you'll see you have workflow rules that you can go through. And when you click on each one of these rules, we can have it prompt the user to ask them to update fields. We can send an email notification when something happens. We can automatically create a task, run scripts. We can do all kinds of stuff. This is very powerful. Every opportunity system that we implement, we will typically have a workflow built as well. So when we look at that demo system, if I look at my opportunities, you see I have stages up here, and I can drill down on how many are in the lead stage, and I can go look at one of those. And you see down in the lower right, I can have the user then, imagine you're a salesperson and you just sent the quote out. You can tell the system, I sent the quote out by clicking on proposal submitted. It'll prompt the user for the appropriate fields. It can preset stuff, so notice it's updating the stage automatically. Hit save, and now I'm at the next step in the workflow, and now I can either reassign it, mark it sold, mark it lost, and follow through that workflow. And behind the scenes, we have a real powerful workflow tree here, that we can build. So we can formalize that process, and a lot of times, as you, probably the most common piece in a workflow that we'll see is if you have an estimating department that's part of your quoting. So we have several customers that the salesperson identifies the opportunity, and then when they get to, before they can quote, they got to hand it over to estimating. They need to spec out the job and come back with a price. And the workflow can control that. So you can request, or you can request an estimate or request pricing, and then it sends an email to the estimating team. It shows up on the estimator's dashboard. They get it done. They tell the system it's done. The salesperson gets an email back saying it's done. Then it shows on the salesperson's dashboard that they can move forward and plug the price in there and send the quote out. That's a good example of how workflows would get utilized. Any questions on that workflow piece? Okay. We also have the ability to do reports in CRM. Some examples here: how many leads came in, how many opportunities were generated, how many cases were entered, that type of thing. The CRM system itself has reports built in. So if I just do a quick, there's a couple that are popular under activity. I can run this activity breakdown by user, just run it for the entire time frame. And here you see it'll break down. I can identify key activities that I want to track, and for each user, it'll track how many times they did it. So this is a good usage report. If there's a salesperson whose numbers are all 0 or 1, chances are they're not making any entries in CRM. So that's a good usage auditing report. There's also, if I want to see what entries specifically they made and who they've been talking to, I can run a communications by date range report. And let's just look at this year and run it. And this is more of a detailed report, but here we have all the communication entries, what they said, the emails that were attached, all that good stuff is there. And then dashboards are fed by reports. So we can build corresponding reports, and the concept of the dashboard is when someone comes in the morning, they can review kind of their key items that you want them to focus on. This is our most common dashboard for salespeople. Their open opportunities, it's broken down by stage. If I click on the chart, it will actually show me the detail. Their tasks, if they have any open tasks, their open opportunities, and you can drill down or jump to an opportunity from that dashboard to update it. And then we also track last communication date. So every company will have a last com date. If you want to set strategies to say you should be calling your accounts every 60 days, this list will auto-populate with the companies that have not been contacted in 60 days. So it'll give them a heads up. And then there's a manager dashboard too that consolidates. Here's all the opportunities by sales rep, opportunities 1 year to date, opportunities closing this quarter, and then companies behind in year-to-date sales. Remember, there was that year-to-date BW field. We can focus on that. So, any questions on the reports or dashboards? People still out there? Everybody still awake? Anyone?
Yeah, you got us, Don.
All right, excellent. Just making sure.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Don, general question here.
Yeah.
Can you export all this information? Can I save it and export to another database?
Yeah, I mean, it's an SQL database on the back end, right? So that's the most common database. So you can access it from SQL and do exports. The individual reports actually have, let me jump back there. When I run a report, I don't know if you noticed, but let's run that communications by date range one. You see this export to Excel? So I can export that data that way too. And then what'll happen is it'll dump it to an Excel file down here. See it? Like I don't have Excel on my demo server, but you see it's an XLS file. So if I opened it, it would just pop up in Excel. Most of the time, if you're going to convert it down the road, most developers or programmers, they want the raw SQL data, and you have the entire set of data in SQL that you can access for migrations or integrations. Okay. Good question. All right, let's minimize this. Let's talk about some advanced capabilities. So one of the cool features of having CRM integrated with Sage 100 is we're bringing in the invoice and sales order data into tables in Sage 100. And that means that we can very often, and for a lot of our customers that used to have a Sage 100 person run a report for them, we can have those reports available within the CRM system and just with a click. Example, customer sales report, we can have in there item sales report, the top items, my open orders, my invoices. So a salesperson can look at quickly their open orders that haven't shipped yet, or their invoices that went out in the last 30 days, so they get an idea of what's going to be on their commission report. Monthly sales rankings by sales rep, salesperson progress, that type of thing. So I'm going to go through some examples here. I'll show it to you live too. So this one, for example, imagine you go to My CRM, you click on the Customer Sales tab, and it'll show you a list of customers with the most sales at the top, right? So that this is what we call an ASP page style report. You can do searches in there. Items sold, same thing. Items selling with the top sales items at the top based on year-to-date sales. Let me jump over to the demo. So if I go to My CRM, here's the customer report. You'll see sales, top selling at the top, item report. This one looks like it's filtered, but get rid of that filter. So here I have my top selling items, my item sales based on year-to-date sales, and I can do searches there if I want. I can export it to Excel. So if you have any, let me do the My Open Orders one here too. If you have any reports that you're pushing out to salespeople through PDFs from Sage 100 or something like that, and you decide it'd be really beneficial to just have the salesperson be able to click on a tab in CRM and have that data available. And if it's invoice or sales order data, that's something that can either we have it built already and we just bolt it on as an add-on, or we can build it for you. Any questions on those examples? Okay. And then finally, I like to mention something that's been pretty popular, and that's a Google Maps integration that we have worked with a developer to build. So the concept is I can pull up a company that I'm going to meet with, and I want to see the rest of the companies in my CRM database on a map. I can do that with this integration. So let me show you real quick here. So if I'm going to meet with, we can do A to Z financial planning. So let's say I have a meeting with them and I want to see who else is in the area. I can click on this S5 Maps button and it will actually show me the other companies in my CRM database on a Google map. And that's a little too wide. I'm going to reduce it to 10 miles. And see, I can zoom in. And then when I click on an item, it will actually give me the information. So I have some information there. And I can decide if I have time in between meetings, I can go meet with someone else. I can even search the map. Let's say I'm selling to auto parts stores. I can search the database for other prospects that may not even be in my CRM database. And maybe I want to meet with them if I have time. And then we even have a feature, if you do route sales, we even have a feature that the salesperson can build a route and have day 1, day 2, day 3 planned out here. You see I have day 1, that's who I'm going to meet with. And then if I go to day 2, here's who I'm going to meet with, and so on. And I can build routes and save them and duplicate them and do all kinds of fancy stuff like that. I can even, if I go back here, I can even filter. So maybe I just want to see my customers on there. I don't want to see prospects. I can drill down that way too. Any questions on the mapping piece? Okay. Minimize that. So to conclude, and we'll take final questions too, implementing CRM can change the way you do business, right? With the standardization of quoting, the standardization of handling your prospects, the integration with Sage 100 can push data to your sales and marketing team that they didn't have before. And it's really a platform. So we can build, as you grow with CRM, we can make it fit your needs moving forward too, because we can write customizations within the package as well. So any final questions or things that I didn't cover related to CRM that you want to discuss before we got about 5 minutes left?
I've got a question about the routing feature there. Are you able to break that down by specific size of a quote, type of, like we're in the building products industry, so when we quote a multifamily or apartment project, I assume we can probably classify that as multifamily. Are we able to break that down by customer base when we're maybe trying to plan sales routes?
So this is a company record in CRM. So if you have a field on the company that tells you what type of building it is, absolutely.
Okay, but like I'm saying, like when we pull up this map, are we able to filter it to just companies that we've quoted, let's say in the last 6 months or something like that?
If we have a field, yeah. So we could, if you create a quote and you want to track when the last quote was, we could have a field just like we have the last invoice date. There, let me go to,
Okay.
right, so just like we have last invoice date here, we could have a last quoted date, and then you could filter by that.
Okay, when you pull up the company map, you can filter by these fields that are showing right now, pretty much.
Yeah, any field. All we need is the data point. That's the cool part about it. You know, all we need is a data point, and we can build filters in there.
Okay, and then in regards to earlier when you had generated a quote, that looked obviously majority like our kind of our invoice for the most part with different tweaks to our specific company. Are we able to generate or implement our own order form that we currently use in just a PDF format into, I guess, how much customability do you have with maybe like an order form within this system where we can put our part numbers in and the quantities and maybe an individual from a company and then have all that populate into a specific form from there?
So you want to send them a form that they can enter in the quantities to order off of?
Well, no, this would be more for internal purposes. Essentially, when we're writing an order up, we're just going to a PDF that we have generated in-house here, and we're putting in all the different part numbers that we have in Sage. So we're essentially not utilizing Sage at all until we go to input that order into the system and therefore generate an invoice, if that makes sense.
My question to you would be why? Why are you doing it on paper when it's all there for you?
Ask the guys that have been here 30 years. Not
yeah, I
understand. I don't know why, but it's something that part of the reason we're even looking at this now is because obviously we're utilizing Sage 100 and we're trying to bring our processes together, I guess.
Because you're talking about somebody having to read somebody else's handwriting or,
correct.
You know, I would we can, is this Dustin?
It's Craig, perfect.
Craig, okay. So, when the next step, if you wanted to discuss it, I would want to dive in with the decision makers and talk about how we have some other customers doing what you're doing and how they do it.
Well, I'd like to, when we have the time, we can just show you the order form that we utilize, and you can pretty much tell us yes or no if we can, because we still want to keep our order form standardized in terms of what it is, but we'd like to obviously put that into an online format, something that's easy to generate at the same time.
Yeah, so reach out to Nate.
Specific to us, but
reach out to Nate, and we can set something up to take a look and do a specific, we call it a needs analysis and demo. So we would dive into how you're using Sage 100 now and what your CRM needs are, and then give you a customized demo, talk through the details, and then from that meeting, we can give you a ballpark estimate as far as what a Sage CRM implementation would cost for you, specific to your needs.
Yeah. Alrighty. Yep.
Yeah, Craig, and this is Nate. I'll be sure to send you a note here when we're all done.
Okay, that works. Thanks.
Any other questions, folks? Okay, those are all good questions.
Those are the best, right?
Yes. John? Well, yeah, the ones prior to the non-question. Yes. So it was a good session. We finished, look at that, right on time. So as I mentioned, if you guys have any, if you want to schedule that needs analysis and demo with us, reach out to Nate. He'll coordinate that, and we'll be able to give you a ballpark quote for what it would take to implement CRM. And I don't know, Nate, is there anything else you want to add to the end here?
No, just thanks everybody for your time. Thanks, Don, for sharing your knowledge with CRM. Just echoing exactly what you said. It doesn't cost anything to continue the conversation. So if you saw something, which every time I see these presentations, I see something new. So we would expect to get questions. We'd be happy to answer them. do the one-on-one demo if you feel that would help. Just reach out. So
Excellent.
thanks everybody for joining today, and have a good afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.